Every night you disappear, not metaphorically. Actually disappear. Your consciousness leaves this reality and goes somewhere else. And for the first time in human history, scientists have mapped where you actually go, and what they've discovered challenges everything we thought we knew about the nature of reality, consciousness, and what it means to be awake. For decades, science treated sleep as a passive state, a shutdown period, your brain turning off to rest and recover from the day's activity. But recent breakthroughs in neuroscience, quantum biology, and consciousness research have converged on a discovery that's nothing short of revolutionary. During sleep, consciousness doesn't turn off. It relocates. It transfers to a different layer of reality. And it does specific, measurable work there that determines what you experience when you wake up. Brain imaging studies from MIT, Stanford, and the Max Planck Institute have shown something remarkable. During deep sleep, particularly during REM cycles, your brain enters states that don't exist during waking consciousness. Frequency patterns that can't be produced by normal waking neural activity. And these patterns are identical, mathematically identical, to the patterns observed in quantum systems that exist in superposition. Multiple states simultaneously. Your sleeping brain isn't generating random noise. It's accessing quantum probability space, the field where all possible realities exist before they collapse into the one definite reality you experience when you're awake. You're not unconscious during sleep. You're conscious in a different dimension of reality, and science can now prove it with functional MRI scans, EEG measurements, and quantum coherence detection. This isn't theory. This isn't speculation. This is measurable, repeatable, peer-reviewed research showing that sleep is not a shutdown state. It's a transfer state, and where you transfer to changes everything about what you thought sleep was for. Think about your own experience with sleep for a moment. You've had dreams that felt like they lasted for hours, days, even years, but when you woke up only minutes had passed. You've gone to bed with a problem that seemed unsolvable, and woken up with the solution fully formed in your mind. You've struggled with a decision for days, and then after one night's sleep, you just knew what to do with complete clarity. You've gone to bed feeling one way and woken up feeling completely different without consciously processing anything. These aren't anomalies. These are clues. Evidence that something profound is happening during those 8 hours that has nothing to do with physical rest. Because here's what the research shows. Sleep serves 3 primary functions, and none of them are about resting your body. Your body can rest while you're awake. Lying still with eyes closed provides the same physical recovery as sleep. But consciousness? Consciousness needs sleep for something completely different. 3 things, specifically. First, probability scanning. Your consciousness during sleep scans all available timeline branches for the next day, and selects which one you'll experience based on your dominant frequency. Second, information download. You access solutions, insights, and knowledge that exist in probability space but aren't available to your waking mind. Third, frequency recalibration. You clear the accumulated emotional and energetic static from the day and reset to your baseline frequency. Sleep isn't rest. Sleep is work. The most important work you do. You're not recovering from yesterday. You're preparing for tomorrow. And not just the tomorrow you expect. All possible tomorrows. Every decision you could make. Every outcome that could unfold. Every version of reality that exists as probability. And during sleep, your consciousness navigates through those probabilities and selects the one that best matches the frequency you were holding as you fell asleep. This is why how you fall asleep matters more than almost anything else you do all day. Because the frequency you stabilize at, in those final moments before consciousness transfers, that's the instruction set. That's the coordinates. That's what determines which probability branch you wake up in. Most people fall asleep stressed, worried, replaying problems, thinking about everything that's wrong. And they wonder why they wake up to days that confirm those fears. Not because they attracted negativity, because they selected the timeline where those outcomes were already probable, based on the frequency they fell asleep holding. Tonight, when you go to sleep, this is going to happen whether you know it or not. Your consciousness will transfer. You will access the quantum field. You will navigate probability space. You will select a timeline. The only question is, are you going to do it unconsciously, at the mercy of whatever random thoughts and emotions you happen to be experiencing when exhaustion finally forced you to sleep? Or are you going to do it consciously, deliberately, with intention and awareness of what's actually happening? Because conscious sleep navigation is the difference between random probability collapse and deliberate reality creation, and you're about to learn exactly how it works. Let me explain exactly what happens when you fall asleep. Not the simplified version you learned in school, the actual mechanism that science has now documented and measured. Because understanding where you go is the first step to navigating there consciously. When you're awake, your brain operates primarily in beta frequency, 12 to 30 Hz. This is the frequency of active thinking, problem-solving, external focus. And at this frequency, your consciousness is locked into one collapsed timeline, one definite reality. The world around you appears solid, fixed, continuous. You experience linear time, cause and effect, one moment following another in predictable sequence. This is consensus reality, the shared hallucination that we all agree is the real world. But as you begin to fall asleep, something changes. Your brain waves slow down. Beta drops to alpha, 8 to 12 Hz. This is the relaxed state. You're still awake but less focused on external reality. Then alpha drops to theta, 4 to 8 Hz. This is the twilight state, that drowsy feeling where you're not quite awake and not quite asleep. Your thoughts become dreamlike, non-linear, symbolic. And then you cross the threshold into delta, 0.5 to 4 Hz, deep sleep. And here's what neuroscience has discovered. Delta is not unconsciousness. Delta is a different kind of consciousness. Because when your brain operates at delta frequency, it can do something it cannot do at any waking frequency. It can achieve quantum coherence. Your neurons begin firing in synchronized patterns that mirror the behavior of particles in superposition. And in that state, consciousness is no longer locked into one collapsed timeline. It accesses the field of uncollapsed probability, the quantum field, the space where all possible realities exist simultaneously before observation collapses them into one definite outcome. A 2024 study from MIT's Center for Consciousness Studies used advanced quantum sensors to measure brain activity during REM sleep. What they found was extraordinary. During deep REM, the brain enters a state of macroscopic quantum coherence. Normally, quantum effects only occur at the subatomic level. But during sleep, the brain, a warm, wet biological system, somehow maintains quantum coherence at a scale that shouldn't be possible according to classical physics. And that coherence creates a bridge, a direct link between individual consciousness and the quantum probability field. Stanford's Consciousness Laboratory ran similar experiments and found that memory consolidation during sleep isn't just the brain reorganizing existing information. It's the brain downloading new information from the probability field, information that wasn't available during waking hours, solutions to problems you hadn't consciously solved, insights about situations you hadn't consciously analyzed, knowledge that seems to appear from nowhere. It's not appearing from nowhere. It's being accessed from probability space where all solutions to all problems already exist in potential form. The Max Planck Institute added another piece. They discovered that during sleep, consciousness doesn't just access the quantum field passively. It navigates. It moves through different probability branches. And the pathway it takes, the specific probabilities it touches, the timelines it samples, is determined by the electromagnetic frequency your brain was holding as you transitioned into sleep. Your dominant emotional state, your prevailing thought patterns, your baseline frequency. That's the navigation system. And where you go during those 8 hours determines what you experience when you come back. So where do you actually go? You go from experiencing one definite now to accessing all possible nows simultaneously. Imagine standing at a crossroads where infinite paths branch out in every direction. Each path is a different timeline, a different sequence of events, a different version of tomorrow. During waking hours, you're locked on one path. You can see it clearly. It feels solid, real, definite. But you can't see the other paths. They're invisible to waking consciousness because waking consciousness only experiences collapsed probability. During sleep, you step off that one path and into the space where all paths exist at once. You're not on a road anymore. You're in the field that contains all roads. And from that vantage point, consciousness can see patterns, connections, and possibilities that are completely invisible from within one collapsed timeline. It can access information from multiple probability branches. It can compare outcomes. It can select trajectories. And when you wake up, you collapse back into one path. But which path you collapse into, which version of tomorrow you experience, that's determined by where your consciousness navigated while you were in the field. This is why you can't remember clearly where you went. Your waking brain operates at 12 to 30 hertz. The experiences you had happened at 0.5 to 4 hertz. Trying to remember quantum field navigation with your beta frequency waking mind is like trying to pick up an FM radio station with an AM receiver. The information exists. The experiences were real. But the format is incompatible. Your waking consciousness doesn't have the bandwidth to decode experiences that occurred at frequencies it doesn't operate in. So you get fragments, impressions, symbols, dreams that feel significant but don't translate into linear narrative. That's not because nothing happened. It's because what happened occurred in a dimension of reality that your waking mind isn't equipped to fully comprehend. But even though you don't remember the specifics, you return with the results. The solution you downloaded, the timeline you selected, the frequency recalibration that happened. You wake up different than you were when you fell asleep. And that difference, subtle or dramatic, is evidence that you went somewhere, did something, and brought something back. You just don't remember the journey, only the destination. Now that you understand where you go, let me explain what you actually do there. Because consciousness during sleep isn't passive. It's not floating aimlessly through probability space. It has specific functions. 4 primary operations that happen every single night whether you're aware of them or not. And understanding these functions is what allows you to start using sleep deliberately, instead of just hoping for good rest. Function 1. Probability scanning. During sleep, your consciousness scans all available probability branches for the next day. Not just one version of tomorrow. All versions. The timeline where you make that phone call and it goes well. The timeline where you make that phone call and it goes badly. The timeline where you don't make the call at all. The timeline where someone else calls you first. Every possible sequence of events that could unfold based on current conditions. And consciousness doesn't just observe these timelines passively, it evaluates them, compares them, measures them against your dominant frequency, and it selects the probability branch with the highest alignment to the frequency you were holding as you fell asleep. You're not just passively experiencing tomorrow, you're actively choosing which tomorrow you'll wake up into. And that choice happens during sleep in the quantum field, based on the energetic signature you carried across the threshold. Function 2. Information download. During REM sleep, consciousness downloads information that isn't accessible during waking hours. Solutions to problems, creative insights, intuitive knowing. This isn't your brain figuring things out while you sleep. This is consciousness accessing information from probability branches where those problems are already solved. Every challenge you face already has a resolution in some timeline. Every question you have already has an answer somewhere in probability space. During sleep, you access those branches and download the data. That's why you go to bed stuck on something and wake up with complete clarity. You didn't think your way to the answer. You accessed the timeline where the answer already existed and brought it back with you. Function 3. Frequency recalibration. Throughout the day, you accumulate what I call frequency static, other people's emotions, environmental stress, reactive thought patterns, limiting beliefs triggered by circumstances. All of this creates interference in your electromagnetic signature. It clouds your baseline frequency. Sleep clears that interference. It's like hitting a reset button on your energetic system. You go to bed carrying the weight of the day's accumulated noise, and you wake up lighter, clearer, closer to your natural frequency. If you've ever gone to bed anxious and woken up calm without consciously processing anything, That's not just physical rest. That's frequency recalibration happening in the quantum field. Your consciousness went somewhere that the static can't follow. And when you returned, you left the interference behind. Function 4. Timeline navigation. This is the most profound function and the one that most people are completely unaware of. During sleep, consciousness literally moves between timeline branches, not metaphorically. Actually moves, based on decisions you made during the day, based on frequency shifts you experienced, based on the dominant vibration you stabilized at before sleep. You don't wake up in the same timeline you fell asleep in. You wake up in the timeline that matches the frequency you were holding when consciousness transferred. Most of the time, these shifts are microscopic. The timelines are so similar, you don't notice any difference. But sometimes, especially after significant emotional shifts or major decisions, the timeline you wake into is noticeably different. And you feel it. Something is off. Reality seems slightly changed. People respond to you differently. Opportunities appear that weren't there before. Obstacles that seemed immovable suddenly resolve. That's not coincidence. That's evidence of timeline navigation during sleep. Let me give you concrete examples so this isn't just abstract theory. You go to bed with a problem you cannot solve. You've thought about it all day, analyzed it from every angle. Nothing works. You fall asleep frustrated, and you wake up with the solution fully formed. Clear. Obvious. Complete. You didn't consciously work on it during sleep, but your consciousness accessed the probability branch where that problem was already solved, downloaded the solution, and brought it back. Or you have a conflict with someone. The situation feels impossible. You don't know what to say or how to resolve it. You go to sleep feeling heavy about it, and you wake up knowing exactly what needs to happen. Not because you processed it consciously, because during sleep, consciousness scanned multiple timeline branches where that conflict plays out differently, identified the resolution path with highest alignment, and downloaded the knowing. Or you're stuck on a decision. Should you take this opportunity? Should you say yes or no? Days of deliberation get you nowhere. Then one night's sleep and you wake up with complete certainty. You just know. That's not intuition appearing randomly. That's consciousness having accessed probability branches where both choices play out, compared the outcomes, and selected the path most aligned with your frequency. This is what dreams actually are. They're not random firing of neurons. They're not your brain dumping irrelevant information. Dreams are your consciousness experiencing probability collapse in real time. You're seeing fragments of multiple timelines simultaneously. That's why dreams don't follow linear logic. Why people and places morph. Why sequences don't make narrative sense. Because you're not experiencing one coherent story. You're experiencing overlapping probability branches as consciousness navigates between them. Dreams are glimpses of the quantum field. Evidence of the work consciousness is doing while your waking mind is offline. And all of this happens every single night. Whether you remember it or not. Whether you believe it or not. Whether you're conscious of it or not. These 4 functions are operating. You're scanning probabilities, downloading information, recalibrating frequency, navigating timelines. The only question is whether you're doing it deliberately or randomly. And that's what we're changing right now. If all of this is happening every night, why don't you remember it clearly? Why do you wake up with only vague impressions or no memory at all of where you went and what you did? There are 3 specific reasons, and understanding them is what allows you to begin recovering more information from your sleep state. Reason 1. Frequency, incompatibility. Your waking brain operates at 12 to 30 Hz, beta frequency. The experiences you had during sleep happened at 0.5 to 4 Hz, delta frequency. These frequencies are so far apart that direct translation is nearly impossible. It's not that the memories don't exist. It's that your waking consciousness doesn't have the mechanism to decode them. Imagine trying to play a cassette tape in a CD player. The information is there, fully intact, complete, but the format is incompatible with the device trying to read it. Your waking mind can't directly access experiences that occurred at frequencies it doesn't operate in. So you get fragments, symbols, feelings, but not clear linear memory. Reason 2. Protective mechanism. If you remembered everything your consciousness experienced during sleep, all the probability branches scanned, all the timelines touched, all the information accessed, your waking mind would overload. It would be trying to hold awareness of multiple realities simultaneously, while also navigating the single collapsed reality you need to function in. Your brain has a gating mechanism. It filters what crosses back over from sleep state. It lets through what you can integrate and blocks what would destabilize you. This is protective, necessary, because you need to be able to function in linear time and collapsed reality during waking hours. Full memory of quantum field navigation would make that nearly impossible. Reason 3. Lack of anchors. Waking memory relies on sequence, location, and linear time. First this happened, then that happened. It occurred in this place. It took this long. But the quantum field doesn't have those structures. There is no first or after. No here or there. No duration. It's non-linear, non-local, timeless. So your waking memory has nothing to anchor to. It can't organize the experiences because the organizing principles it depends on don't exist where you were. You can't remember what happened first during sleep because sequence doesn't apply to probability space. But, and this is critical, you can begin to remember more. You can develop the capacity to bring back clearer information from sleep state. Not all of it, not overwhelming amounts, but significantly more than you're currently accessing. Here's how. Technique 1. The frequency bridge. The moment you begin to wake, don't move. Don't open your eyes. Don't immediately engage with waking consciousness. Stay in that twilight state between sleep and waking. That's theta, 4 to 8 hertz. And theta is the bridge. It's where sleep consciousness and waking consciousness overlap. It's the only frequency range where both can coexist. So stay there, remain still, keep your eyes closed, and notice what's present. Images, feelings, knowing, fragments. Don't try to make sense of them. Don't force them into narrative. Just observe. Let them be there without analysis. That's the window. That's where memory transfers. Most people blast right through theta into beta within seconds of waking, and in doing so, they lose access to everything that happened during sleep. If you can extend that theta window, stay in the in-between for even 2 or 3 minutes, you'll recover significantly more information. Technique 2. Immediate capture. Whatever comes through during that theta window, capture it immediately. Not later. Not after you've gotten up and started your day. Immediately. Keep a phone or journal next to your bed. And the moment you transition from theta to beta, while the fragments are still present, record them. Voice notes. Quick writing. Doesn't matter if they make sense. Doesn't matter if they're coherent. Just capture the data before the frequency shift erases it. You have approximately 90 seconds after fully waking before sleep memories start degrading. That's your window. Use it. Technique 3. Pre-sleep intention. Before you fall asleep, set clear intention about what you want to remember. Tonight I remember where I go. Tonight I bring back information clearly. Tonight I maintain awareness during the transfer. Simple. Direct. Repeat it as you're falling asleep. Intention creates a pathway. It tells consciousness what to prioritize, what to gate through the protective mechanism, and repetition strengthens that pathway. Do this every night for 2 weeks and you'll notice significant improvement in dream recall and sleep memory. Technique 4. Daytime theta practice. The more familiar you are with theta frequency while awake, the easier it is to maintain awareness when consciousness naturally enters theta during sleep. Practice meditation, breathwork, or use binaural beats to deliberately enter theta during the day. Spend time there. Get comfortable with how it feels. Learn to recognize the state. And as theta becomes familiar territory for your waking consciousness, it becomes easier to stay aware as you pass through it during sleep transitions. The progression typically looks like this. First week, you remember the feeling or tone of where you were. Not details, just an overall sense. Second week, fragments start coming through. Images, sensations, words. Third week, more coherent scenes. Sequences that make some sense. Information that's clearly relevant. By week 4, You're maintaining partial awareness during sleep state itself and bringing back clear, usable information regularly. If you want to start remembering where you go during sleep, write navigator in the comments. Your public declaration of intention creates momentum. It's you telling the universe and your own consciousness that you're ready to become aware of what's already happening every night. Now that you understand where you go, what you do there, and how to begin remembering, let me show you how to use sleep as a deliberate reality creation tool. Because here's the truth that changes everything. The timeline you wake into tomorrow is determined by the frequency you hold tonight as you fall asleep. Not the timeline you hope for. Not the one you think about. The one that matches your dominant electromagnetic signature in those final moments before consciousness transfers. If you fall asleep worried, you wake into a timeline where that worry is justified. If you fall asleep grateful, you wake into a timeline where gratitude makes sense. Not because you manifested new circumstances out of thin air, because you selected the probability branch where those circumstances already exist. Every possible version of tomorrow already exists in the quantum field. Your job isn't to create them. Your job is to select which one you collapse into. And that selection happens during sleep based on frequency alignment. Here's the protocol. Step by step. Exactly how to do this. 30 minutes before sleep. Turn off all screens. Blue light interferes with melatonin production and disrupts the frequency transition your brain needs to make. Dim the lights in your space. Create an environment that supports the shift from beta to alpha to theta to delta. And clear the emotional static you accumulated during the day. Journal if you need to dump thoughts. Do breath work if you're carrying tension. Release whatever you're holding that isn't the frequency you want to take into sleep. You're preparing the instrument, tuning it, getting it ready to broadcast clearly. 15 minutes before sleep. Get into bed in the position you'll actually sleep in. Don't sit up reading or scrolling. Lie down, close your eyes, and begin the frequency setting process. This is where the real work happens. The frequency setting process. First, identify the specific reality you want to wake into. Not what you want to get. Not what you're trying to manifest. What reality you want to already be in when you open your eyes tomorrow. Be specific. Tomorrow I wake up in the timeline where this situation is already resolved. Tomorrow I wake up in the timeline where this opportunity has already appeared. Tomorrow I wake up in the timeline where I already feel this way. Specificity matters because vague frequency broadcasts produce vague results. Second, generate the feeling of already being in that reality. This is critical. Don't visualize, don't think about it, feel it. What does it feel like to already be living in that timeline? Not the hope of getting there, not the desire for it, the actual felt sense of already being there. If you're trying to wake into a timeline where a problem is resolved, feel the relief, the ease, the lightness of it already being handled. If you're trying to wake into a timeline where an opportunity appeared, feel the excitement, the clarity, the forward momentum of it already being real. This isn't imagination. This is tuning. You're calibrating your electromagnetic signature to match the frequency of the timeline you're selecting. Third, hold that frequency. Don't let your mind wander. Don't start thinking about your day or planning tomorrow or worrying about whether this is working. Just hold the feeling. Loop it. Sustain it. Every time your attention drifts, gently bring it back to the feeling. You're broadcasting, clearly, consistently. And that broadcast is the instruction set. That's what tells consciousness which probability branch to navigate to during sleep. Fourth, and this is where most people fail, fall asleep while still holding that frequency. Don't do the practice and then stop and think about something else as you drift off. Don't generate the feeling and then let it go and fall asleep in neutral or worse, in worry. You have to maintain the frequency all the way across the threshold. As you feel yourself getting drowsy, keep holding it. As thoughts become dreamlike and non-linear, keep holding it. As you transition from alpha to theta to delta, the last thing your consciousness is holding should be that frequency. Because that's the coordinates, that's what determines where you go and what you select. Common mistakes. Mistake 1, wanting instead of having. Wanting broadcasts lack. You'll wake into timelines where you still want the thing because that matches the frequency of wanting. You have to feel like you already have it, already are in it, already experience it as real. Mistake 2. Stopping the practice before sleep actually takes you. If you set the frequency and then think, okay, that's done, and shift to other thoughts, you just canceled the instruction. The last frequency held is what counts. Mistake 3. Checking for results immediately upon waking. If your first thought when you open your eyes is, did it work? You just retuned to doubt frequency. You need to wake up assuming you're in the new timeline. Look for evidence of it. Expect it. Don't question whether it happened. Advanced application. Timeline stacking. Once you're consistent with basic protocol, you can stack timelines. Don't try to jump from broke to millionaire in one night. That's too big a frequency gap. Your consciousness will resist the leap. Instead, select incremental upgrades. Night 1, wake into timeline where an opportunity appears. Night 2, wake into timeline where you take action on that opportunity. Night 3, wake into timeline where that action produces a result. Small progressive shifts compound. This is how major manifestation actually occurs. Not one massive jump. Multiple small, deliberate timeline selections that build momentum. Why this works? When other methods don't. Daytime manifestation techniques fight against your waking mind's resistance. Your limiting beliefs are active, your doubts are present, your critical thinking is online, and all of that creates interference. Sleep manifestation bypasses everything. During sleep, the critical mind is offline. Limiting beliefs are inactive. Resistance doesn't exist. You have direct, unfiltered access to the quantum field. No interference. No doubts. Just pure frequency matching and timeline selection. This is why people who struggle with visualization and affirmations during the day often see massive results from sleep protocol, because they're finally accessing the quantum field without their waking mind sabotaging the process. Real-world examples. You have a problem at work that seems impossible. You set frequency before sleep. Feel the relief of it being resolved. You wake up and check your email. Message from the exact person who can solve it. You didn't make them email you. You woke into the timeline where they were already going to email you. Or relationship conflict that feels stuck. You feel resolution before sleep. You wake up and the other person texts wanting to talk. Timeline selection. Or financial stress. You feel abundance before sleep. You wake to unexpected refund, opportunity, or solution you hadn't considered. Not magic. Physics. Frequency matching and probability collapse. Let me show you what life looks like when you master conscious sleep navigation. Because this isn't just a technique you use occasionally when you have a specific problem. This becomes how you live, how you operate, how you create reality on a daily basis. And the transformation is so profound that within months, you won't recognize your old way of existing. Transformation. Marker 1. Problems solve themselves. Not because you stop having challenges, but because solutions appear faster than problems can accumulate. You go to sleep with a question and wake with an answer. Consistently, predictably, reliably. What used to take weeks of struggle now resolves overnight. Because during sleep, your consciousness accessed the probability branch where that solution already exists and downloaded it. People around you will start asking how you always know what to do, how you stay so calm during chaos, how things just work out for you. And the answer is simple. You're navigating to timelines where solutions are already present. You're not fighting problems in this timeline. You're selecting timelines where the problems are already handled. Transformation. Marker 2. Synchronicities become your normal. The coincidences that other people marvel at become your everyday experience. The right person appears at the right time. The exact information you need shows up from an unexpected source. Opportunities align in ways that seem too perfect to be random. And they're not random. You're waking into timelines you deliberately selected. And in those timelines, these coincidences are just natural events that belong to that probability branch. You're not getting lucky. You're getting precise. Precise with your frequency. Precise with your timeline selection. And reality reflects that precision back to you. Transformation. Marker 3. Mornings feel different. You wake up already aligned, already clear, already in the state you used to have to spend an hour trying to cultivate through meditation or journaling or affirmations. Now you wake up in it, because you selected a timeline where that state is your natural baseline. Your morning isn't peaceful because you worked hard to create peace. Your morning is peaceful because you woke into a timeline where peace already exists. And that difference, waking into alignment versus trying to create alignment, changes everything about how your day unfolds. Transformation. Marker 4. Reality becomes responsive. Life stops feeling like a struggle, not because everything becomes easy, but because your actions create momentum instead of meeting resistance. You're working with probability instead of against it. You make a decision and things flow. You take action and doors open. You pursue something and support appears. Because you're navigating to timelines where your movement is already supported by the natural unfolding of that probability branch. You're not forcing anything. You're selecting trajectories where what you want is already becoming real. The integration timeline typically looks like this. First month, you have occasional breakthrough nights where you know you woke into a different timeline. Something shifted, something changed, and you can feel it. 3 months in, it's a consistent pattern. Problems that used to keep you stuck for weeks resolve overnight. Answers appear. Life flows better. 6 months in, you can't remember what struggling felt like.